The Singularity generator, the main source of power in Donut 2 and 3, you're essentially using the energy of a black hole to power your 9 to 5. Unnecessary, for sure, but surprisingly simple compared to other methods once you get the process down. The Singularity radiates strong radioactive energy. By containing it with field generators and harnessing the energy with radiation collectors, the radiation off of the Singulo is what keeps the lights on in the station. Really couldn't be more simple, so let's go over what you gotta do. First, before we do anything, a safety brief. Do yourself a solid and wear the right gear. Singularity startup location is usually in space, and the Singularity itself releases blinding amounts of radiation. Remember to wear internals during space work, and throw on your Class 2 radiation suit and Messen goggles while it's on. Additionally, the Singularity will pull anything and everyone around it towards it. It's highly suggested you wear your mag boots or risk being constantly pulled during your work. The containment shield around a Singulo blasts back anything that touches it, which is both a big owie and drains power from the field generators. Please be mindful of what the Singularity can do. If you mess up on most other engines, the station goes dark and people get kind of miffed. If you screw around on a Singularity, you risk a much quieter ship when everyone's turned into a new state of matter. Skip steps at your own peril. Safety brief over. Now, the actual parts of the engine. At the center, you have the gravitational Singularity generator. This is the actual Singularity not yet released. Once the field generators are on and it's contained, this will release from containment and the engine will be in full swing. If this isn't at the center of the Singularity, then put it back. If you can't find it, God help you. Speaking of field generators, these four corners of the containment are what's required to keep the Singularity from consuming the entire station. This, of course, requires stupid amounts of power, which they have about 10 minutes of already stored inside. But that will run out unless you activate the emitters. The emitters are huge laser beams that transmit power to the field generators. They don't need their own power supply and fire directly into field generators to keep them from turning off while you still have an infinitely dense space right next to your face. They also burn like crazy, so don't stand in front of it when it's on, please. Hopefully I don't need to tell you that. Finally, you have radiation collector controls and arrays. Collector arrays are basically solar panels but for the Singulo's radioactive aura, and require a tank of plasma to process the energy. The plasma isn't actually consumed, the tank is only used as a catalyst for radioactive energy to be turned into electrical energy in the collector control. Collector arrays only work when they're next to a collector control, which can maintain a collector array on each of its sides. Those array control configs wire into the SMES, which means power for the people, served up in a force beyond human comprehension. Coal power, eat your heart out. There's two ways you'll be able to set it up. They don't actually have names, so I'll call them Standard and Freeform. Standard is utilizing the pre-placed data terminals to send signals to the entire setup all at once. By utilizing Engine Master, which you'll find in the terminal nearby, a simple few computer commands will turn everything on for you, instead of you having to throw everything on yourself or think about the layout. Freeform just means you set up everything how you want, at the risk of turning everything on manually. This isn't the worst thing, just more involved and with a bit more risk of you locking yourself in the center of the containment field and dooming yourself to be absorbed by the Singularity, or forgetting a field generator and letting it loose in the station instead. Do not stand in the contained area of the field generators when you turn the last one on. Do not ask why I'm telling you this. The field generators should have line of sight with each other and should have no more than 11 tiles between each other. If any of them are on space tiles, build flooring under them to secure them. Each field generator should have at least one emitter facing it with an unblocked view so it can provide power. However it's done, seriously confirm the emitters and field generators are both wrenched and welded down or they won't work properly. You'll need to unlock the controls to the emitters and field gens with your ID to turn them on or off if you're doing it manually. It's also recommended you relock them as well. And you know what? Just because I'm a little worried, let's go over singularity busting. So, something went horribly wrong. Turns out, feeding a nuke to the singularity was a bad idea. It's loose. What now? Good thing the chief should always have a singularity buster launcher in their office for this exact scenario. A loose singularity is slow, moving around aimlessly and pulling in everything it can. By firing a singularity launcher into the center of the singulo, the thing will collapse into a white hole for a brief moment before dissipating. If, God forbid, you don't have this option on hand, you'll either need to get cargo to purchase one, or utilize explosives. Explosives actually do, in fact, destroy the singularity, but it doesn't have the same properties of the Buster rocket. If the explosive device falls into the singularity, nothing happens. So you essentially need to do it right next to the singularity. Good luck with that. In the aftermath, all parts of a singularity generator are either mech scannable or purchasable from cargo. So it's even possible to rebuild, assuming the station feels like staying after. Let's run through a basic setup utilizing Engine Master for a safe and easy start. Ensure all parts of the Singulo are placed in their respective data terminals and in the right configuration. If it's Donut 3, everything should already be in place. If it's Donut 2, they're exposed, so you'll know where to aim it. Wrench and weld everything into place. Be very sure about this, as anything unsecure will topple the entire procedure, and this will become Singularity Buster 101. Go to the nearby engine control console and log into it. Boot up Engine Master. You have some options, but admittedly most of them is either quitting Engine Master or doesn't really work in my experience. Regardless, enter Startup. Give it a moment and everything should start turning on. Notice something isn't set right? Abort. Or cry. At this point, you've either died or have a singularity. Good. Make sure you're wearing radiation gear and mag boots at this point. Now, to collect it. Get a plasma tank for every collector array. Place them into the arrays, and turn both the controls and arrays on. Set up the SMES, and boom, you're done. Just a weird note for Donut 2 specifically, the SMES, as opposed to being in one location, is separated into 4 different places along inner maintenance. There's one for north, east, south, and west, so you'll need to make sure each one's set. There's actually a pretty finite amount of things to do if you want to get wacky with a singularity. Regardless, it's still a pretty profitable endeavor and one of the easier ways to get some crazy power going with the right setup. To start with the most obvious, bigger Singulo. The Bigulo is just as easy as increasing how far apart the field gens are to allow for a bigger singularity. A singularity containment can go no farther than 13 by 13 before field generators can no longer reach each other. The bonus is multiplicative, so even going slightly bigger can have big power gen effects. Just plan right and I think you'll do well. More than that, you could even have more singularities. It's actually possible to just put more singularity generators in the center of the containment field, or to use multiple field gens to make more containment fields. Collectors can collect for multiple singularities. However, I cannot legally take responsibility for whatever happens, as the wiki claims singularity interactions are quote-unquote buggy and can behave unexpectedly or dangerously, and testing with multiple singularities is unadvised unless you are an antagonist. So, don't do it. Don't buy another singularity generator crate from cargo and place it next to the first one before starting the singularity. Don't. Another basic thing you can do is simply just adding more radiation collectors. You may need to add more wiring, just make sure you're doing it to the SMES and not the main power grid. Either way, getting more collector arrays and controls is as simple as mech scanning and duplicating them, or just buying more from cargo. Also take note that you may have some trouble adding more while the Singularity is pulling everything around. Wrenching the collectors lets you bolt them to the floor or unbolt them, so keep that in mind. But what about the plasma itself? Well, to keep a long story short, the more plasma in the tanks, the better it can process the Singulo's energy. I, of course, mean the mole count. Now, how do you get more gas in if the tank's full? Simple, freeze that crap. Ideal gas law would tell us that by freezing the gas, you're decreasing the gas's pressure, thus letting you fit in more moles of plasma. Luckily, the devs are kind enough to provide a freezer connected to a connector port for easy plasma cooling. If that's not an option, talk to science and let them handle it. The colder and fuller the tanks, the better. Now the most fun part of a wacky Singulo setup, the feeder. Singularity grows bigger with everything it absorbs, be it ground, the loose garbage, the clown. The bigger it is, the more power can be harvested from it. So what are your options? You have two convenient options for getting something underneath the containment field and into the Singulo. One is setting up a pipe system with a flusher that goes under the containment field. Easy enough to set with a disposal pipe cart. The other is setting a teleporter in the same tile as the containment field, and another on the outside, so you can teleport items in safely. Both have their perks. I'll let you fiddle with what you want. And if you do happen to connect to the disposal system to the Singularity, you should really set up an announcement on station. Should people be writing disposals like a tram system? No, but they are. And you just send Gargamel the disposal clown to his death, and I take absolutely no responsibility in that. You can either set the input up in the engine room to keep it as engineer business, or put it outside to let anyone passing by have fun. Just be willing to accept the risk that you're basically putting the press here to destroy anyone or anything on this tile outside, so I'd highly recommend at least a railing or a sign or something. If you're not an Antag, don't try to trick anyone into going in or make it to where people could accidentally fall in. Yes, I know it's funny, it's still grief, and I am legally obligated to inform you of this, or I'm liable for your dork-ass shenanigans. Whatever you do, do it before you set up the engine. I hope I don't have to explain why. You can actually make some automatic feeders for the Singularity, as two MechComp components constantly print new items. Paper printers and tripwire lasers. Yes, I wasn't kidding about everything. The lasers count as unique objects, and thus can feed a Singularity. Just keep in mind that any duplicate object becomes less and less effective, so if you go all out on a printer setup, just don't be too surprised when the results start to peter out pretty fast. People don't have diminishing effects, though. Just saying. And, that's about it. It's honestly pretty easy. Dare I say it's the easiest engine to deal with as long as you take the right precautions. Which you did, right? Right?